Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's Greg Akagi with the Kansas Agriculture Network. And of course, we want to talk about the markets today. Of course, what a day as far as the markets are concerned. And we're going to get details on that coming up here in just a bit with Tom Leffler of Leffler Commodities. But if you have been hearing the news, of course, throughout the day, and it came early this morning that a new variant of the COVID-19 strain has been confirmed in South Africa. We talked with some other folks earlier today, Daryl Holiday with Country Futures, who said that actually may have originated in Botswana, but now it's starting to become issue as far as there was a person in Belgium of a non-citizen that came from South Africa that has been discovered with the new strain. The United States is going to put a travel ban on for any non-citizens coming into the United States from South Africa. And then, of course, it wreaked havoc as far as the markets are concerned. And so that is definitely one thing that was an issue. And we'll hopefully be joined here by Tom Leffler of Leffler Commodities to get more analysis on this in just a bit. The Dow, by the way, closed down over 900 points, 905.04. It's down below the 35,000 mark once again, actually below 34.9, 34,899.34. The Nasdaq down 353.5 points, down almost 2.25%. The Dow was down almost over 2.5%, and the S&P 500 also took a big shot to the chin, down nearly a little over 2.25%, down nearly 107 points overall. That's not even the big one. It's crude oil that was the big one, down over 13% today, down $10.22. And gold, which was much higher this morning, finished up over $8 an ounce. And joining us now, as we have jokingly said, the day after Thanksgiving from an undisclosed location is Tom Leffler of Leffler Commodities. And Tom, it's normally known as Black Friday in shopping circles, but you almost could describe it today on how these markets were too.
That's exactly right, Greg. And you've done a good job describing what all took place. No one was expecting to see what happened overnight or what took place today with these large sell-offs. And the bottom line is, as you say, the Dow was down 905 points on the close. It was down over 1,000 points at one time. The S&P was down 104 points, and at January crude oil traded down $10.24 on the close. Everything did have a early closing today, and we're looking at the wheat futures on the opening this morning. We were down as much as 27 to 30 cents. Soybeans were down as much as 25 cents, and the corn was down 13 to 15 cents on the opening, and it looked like it was going to be a disaster. Now, the close ended up much better as they all recovered to cut their losses. The corn even managed to close on the positive side, but keep in mind, corn did not go up and take out the high that was made Wednesday. Now, this week, we saw Chicago and Kansas City wheat make new contract highs for both old crop and new crop contracts. Old crop corn had its highest trade since August this week, and the new crop corn actually scored some new contract highs. Now, the old crop and new crop soybeans this week were unable to trade above the highs that we saw in the previous week and were well below their contract highs as soybeans continue to struggle out there in the marketplace. Now, the wheat and the corn futures and their fundamentals still have the friendliest price action to the upside and could very well see even more upside as we continue into the end of the year. Now, the upside in our cattle futures and our cash market has been very impressive and better than I personally was anticipating here at this time and place. In the cash cattle, the past 3 weeks, we have seen movement in our 5-area feed yards from as much as 92,000 to up to 103,000 head. The average Kansas steer price has went up almost $15 over the past 6 weeks to an average price of nearly $139. Now, this week, all of the live cattle futures have scored new contract highs, with some of them being up 13 straight sessions. Now, only the August feeder cattle futures have been able to make new contract highs, with today's new contract high at 178.25. The cattle complex is currently on some very high price levels that have came fairly quickly. All this continues to make me nervous about continued strength going into the end of the year for our cattle complex. Sunday evening should be very interesting to see how these markets open and how they trade. Keep in mind there are only 2 trading sessions left for the month of November, and there is usually a certain amount of positioning that goes on in those markets, Greg.
Yeah, and I'd like to follow up on that because of the fact that this happened on a Friday. This happened on a market shortened day as far as everything is concerned. One would think with this big of a drop, we would have a pretty good bounce back that was come, but we also don't know what this new variant, I guess, is going to do either.
That's exactly right. And we've heard so many different stories today about it. They're as much to one side as they are to the other of, not knowing what to think. Some of them thinks it's very highly contagious. Others said it's too early to know. And I do think that we had what you would call a knee-jerk reaction today in the marketplace, and we didn't really see very good recovery in the equities or in our energy markets. And thankfully, it did not continue to weigh on our ag markets today. Hopefully Sunday, calmer heads will occur and we'll see these markets rebound, because there was nothing else out there in the marketplace to go along with this big sell-off.
So and maybe not necessarily on the commodity side, but you take something like crude that got beat up today, that could snap back, potentially back to where it was come Monday.
It's always a possibility, because the reason crude went down, they're worried that this is a very bad situation, that we will see less petroleum products used out there. So, if all of a sudden this thing doesn't look that bad, we could see this market go back up. And it was just back here, in the late part of October, we was making new contract highs, and we was even up there in that January contract right close to that $80 level this week.
What's amazing is strength in some of these markets, and we don't talk about it much here, but we continue to see strength in the spring wheat and also in the oats.
Yes, we've seen strength there, but Greg, I've been disappointed in the spring wheat and the oats, because they was kind of the leaders to this upside that we saw take place due to their dry weather up there in the northern part of the U.S. going into Canada. But since then, we've seen Chicago and Kansas City wheat pretty much take over the leadership in the wheat market. And of course, this week they've had a lot of help from all the talk out of Australia about their harvest delays and concerns about the quality and quantity of their wheat due to wet weather.
You said you were worried, what this, especially on the cattle market, what it's going to do the rest of the year. And whoever would have thought Wednesday we'd say 140 as far as this cash market is concerned.
And I'm telling you what, you're talking to one that never dreamed we would be here. I really highly encourage people to take advantage of these price levels we're at, both in live cattle and feeder cattle, because they're at levels we can lock some profits in. There's no guarantees this market's going to keep going higher. And the amount of upside we've seen in the last few weeks just makes you a little leery. Can we hold it together? Keep in mind, the cattle on feed report a week ago did not really show any big changes, except we still have a lot of cattle on feed. We've got to keep moving it. We've been doing a good job of that, Greg. The movement has been great. We've been doing better the last several weeks on the slaughter levels. So maybe that's going to hold this thing together. But we're also seeing our weights go up, as we saw today on the carcass weights. We were 5 pounds heavier on steers at 924 pounds. Heifers 2 pounds heavier at 844 pounds. So even if we're doing a good job of slaughtering, we're adding weight to these cattle we are killing.
Well, as you said, it's going to make it fun Sunday night when the overnight markets come open.
You bet it will. And I think everybody's going to be bated breath to see exactly what's going to take place. And these pre-openings will be very important to watch too. All
right. Tom, if people want more information or have any questions, which I'm sure some of them might, especially after today, how can they get a hold of you?
Greg, they can get us on the phone or on the web, either one, by using 866-GO-TO-TOM.
All right, that's Tom Leffler of Leffler Commodities. And as we mentioned, thought we'd come on just to give you an update, a recap of what happened as far as these markets are concerned are on a very, very volatile Friday. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Greg.